Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'll tell you what, the moment I finished watching these latest General Hospital spoilers for the week of July 20 through July 24, I had that feeling in my gut that Port Charles was about to turn upside down all over again. Just when I thought a few folks might finally catch a break, the writers tossed another handful of surprises onto the table. That's the kind of thing that keeps me coming back, because every time I think I've figured it out, this show reminds me that I haven't seen anything yet. The first story that really grabbed my attention was Drew. I have to admit, I never expected Kai Taylor to become the person who stumbled onto such an important secret. Watching Drew quietly reveal that he was getting movement back by knocking over that medical bag felt like one of those little moments that says more than 1,000 words. Sometimes hope doesn't arrive with fireworks, it comes with the smallest movement, and that's exactly what happened here. What impressed me even more was Kai's reaction. My first thought was that any decent young man would want to tell Willow immediately, but the second Drew stopped him, everything changed. Right there, Kai realized something wasn't right. You could almost see the wheels turning in his head. Once he understood Willow couldn't be trusted, he chose to keep quiet, and honestly, I think that was the smartest decision he's made in a long time. Now, if there's one thing I know about Trina Robinson, it's that she isn't the kind of person who walks away when someone needs help. I don't believe Kai will be able to keep this secret to himself for very long. The minute he tells Trina what he witnessed, these two are going to connect the dots. They already believe Willow shot Drew. And if they're right about that, then every extra day Drew spends trapped inside that house becomes more dangerous than the last. I've had a feeling for weeks that Kai's suspicions about Drew's locked-in condition weren't just wild guesses. Turns out, he may have been seeing the truth before anyone else wanted to admit it. That's why I'm looking forward to seeing Kai and Trina step into unexpected hero roles. They aren't police officers or detectives, but sometimes ordinary people end up doing the bravest things. If they really start planning a rescue for Drew, I think we're in for one tense ride. As for Willow, well, bless her heart, but every move she makes seems to dig the hole a little deeper. The more Drew recovers, the less control she has, and desperate people often make desperate choices. That's what worries me. She has spent so much time trying to keep him silent that I can't help wondering what happens when silence is no longer an option. If Drew fully regains his voice, or even enough movement to expose her, the walls she's built around herself could come crashing down overnight. And honestly, that's the kind of pressure that makes people do things they never imagined they were capable of. Then there's Sonny Corinthos, and I can't say his next move surprised me. The second Carly started putting boundaries around her relationship with Valentine, I had a feeling Sonny wasn't going to accept it quietly. That's never really been his style. When Sonny believes someone he loves is making a mistake, he doesn't stand on the sidelines and hope for the best. He gets involved whether anyone asks him to or not. This time, it looks like Sonny is setting his sights directly on Carly and Valentine's relationship. From where I'm sitting, that's a risky game. Carly has always appreciated Sonny's concern, but she also wants to make her own decisions. Trying to pull them apart could easily backfire, especially if she realizes he's been working behind the scenes instead of respecting the boundaries she worked so hard to establish. Of course, Sonny isn't planning to fight this battle alone. Bringing Brick into the picture tells me this isn't just another emotional reaction. Sonny is putting together a strategy, and Brick has always been one of the few people he trusts without hesitation. I understand why Brick wants to protect Carly. Most fans know he'd do almost anything to keep her safe. Still, protecting someone and deciding who they should love are two very different things, and I have a feeling those lines are about to become awfully blurry. On top of everything else, Jason Morgan finally returns home after spending time away with Danny. I always enjoy seeing Jason walk back into Port Charles because his presence changes the atmosphere almost immediately. Carly finally gets her best friend back, and that's something she's desperately needed. What really caught my attention, though, is that Jason already accepted Valentine before leaving town. Knowing Valentine risked everything to help Carly and Jocelyn will only strengthen Jason's respect for him, and that could create an interesting contrast with Sonny's determination to drive the couple apart. From where I sit, that feels like the beginning of another emotional battle that could divide even the strongest friendships. As I kept thinking about Jason's return, one question kept coming back to me. What if the biggest surprise isn't that he's home? What if the biggest surprise is that he no longer wants the life everyone expects him to return to? I've watched Jason spend years putting Sonny's business ahead of almost everything else. Time after time, he was the one standing beside Sonny when nobody else could. and that loyalty became part of who he was. But life has a funny way of changing a person's priorities, especially after they've looked death in the face. From everything we've seen, being held prisoner by the WSB didn't just leave Jason with painful memories. It forced him to think about what really matters if he gets a second chance. That's why I have a feeling Jason may sit down with Sonny and deliver news his old friend never wanted to hear. I don't imagine this will be some dramatic argument filled with shouting. In fact, I think it'll be much quieter than that, and somehow even more emotional. Jason has never been the kind of man who makes long speeches or tries to explain every decision he makes. He's always let his actions do the talking, and that's one of the reasons I've always respected him. If he tells Sonny that Danny has become his only priority, I believe every word will come straight from his heart. To be honest, I don't think Jason owes anyone an apology for making that choice. For years, Danny has shared his father with danger, violence, and endless emergencies. Every time Jason walked out the door, there was always the possibility he wouldn't come back. That's no way for a child to grow up, and if Jason finally decides he's had enough of that life, I can't blame him one bit. As folks around here like to say, sometimes enough is enough. Of course, Sonny finds himself in an incredibly difficult position. Part of him will probably want Jason to stay exactly where he's always been because Jason isn't just another employee or trusted enforcer. He's family. He's the man Sonny has depended on more times than anyone could possibly count. But another part of Sonny understands sacrifice better than most people because he's a father too. He knows what it feels like to wake up every morning wondering whether your children are safe. Deep down, I think he'll recognize that Jason is trying to give Danny something neither of them ever truly had a chance to live an ordinary life without constantly looking over his shoulder. Even if Sonny understands that decision, it won't make the goodbye hurt any less. In fact, I think this could become one of the saddest moments we've seen between these two men in years, not because they're angry with each other, but because life is pulling them in different directions. Friendships can survive that kind of change, but they're rarely ever the same afterward. While Jason may finally be discovering a new purpose, Britt Westbourne seems to be walking into another heartbreaking chapter of her own. I honestly feel for her because freedom doesn't always bring happiness. Sometimes it simply gives you the chance to realize how much has changed while you were gone. I can easily imagine Britt hearing that Jason has returned to Port Charles and convincing herself that he'll come looking for her the first chance he gets. Hope has a funny way of keeping us alive during the darkest moments. We build dreams in our heads because they're easier to hold on to than reality. Then reality finally arrives. If Britt realizes Jason isn't rushing to see her, I think that moment will hurt far more than anything she's experienced since her release. It won't just be disappointment. It'll be the painful realization that time didn't stop while she was away. People grow, lives move on, priorities change. The future she imagined may no longer exist, and that's the kind of heartbreak that quietly stays with someone long after everyone else has moved on. When I step back and look at everything coming during the week of July 20 through July 24, I see far more than a collection of separate storylines. I see people standing at crossroads that could permanently reshape their futures. Jason may finally choose fatherhood over the mob life that has defined him for decades. Sonny may discover that even the strongest friendships have to evolve with time. Britt may be forced to accept a heartbreaking reality she never wanted to face. Scout represents hope for the next generation, while Serena could inject fresh energy into an already unpredictable town. For me, that's what has always made General Hospital so enjoyable after all these years. The explosions, the arrests, and the shocking twists are exciting, but they only matter because they're happening to characters I've laughed with, worried about, and rooted for over countless episodes. If these spoilers are any indication, this isn't simply another week where the story moves forward. This feels like one of those weeks where lives are permanently changed. Some characters may finally discover what truly matters most, while others may realize they've already lost the thing they were fighting to hold on to. Either way, I have a feeling we're about to witness one unforgettable week in Port Charles, and something tells me the consequences of these choices will echo through General Hospital for a long time to come.